midnight and you're tuning into Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan. The headlines. Toll rates involving highways in the Klang Valley to remain unchanged until end of the concession. And EU accepts Malaysia's COVID-19 vaccination certification. We begin the bulletin with this. 4 people were killed while 2 others were seriously injured in an accident involving 4 vehicles, including an express bus at Kampung Sungai Ikan Jalan Kuala Terengganu, Kota Baru on Monday. The dead victims were identified as Syed Muhammad Shukri Tuan Yahya, aged 36, 34-year-old Muhammad Saufi Juso, Muhammad Shahlan, 37, while the identity of another victim has not been identified. Kuala Nerus Fire and Rescue Station Chief Azmi Omar said the 6:22 p.m. accident involved a van, 2 cars and an express bus. The dead victims were passengers and the driver of a van believed to be an employee of a welding company. He said the 2 serious victims in the incident were the driver and passenger of one of the cars, Muhammad Fazil Hussein, aged 33, and Nur Silawati Said, alias Nawang, 42. 13 passengers, including 2 express bus drivers and the other car driver, Chiu Cheong Keng, aged 55, escaped unhurt. 18 firemen from Kuala Terengganu were dispatched to the scene. It took them almost an hour to extricate the bodies from the van. Their remains were taken to the Sultanah Nur Zahirah Hospital, the same hospital where the injured victims had been taken to. The toll rates involving highways in the Klang Valley operated by 4 concessionaires will remain unchanged until the end of the concession. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said this was achieved after the government had agreed to the proposed restructuring to the 4 highway concessionaires. The 4 concessionaires are Kesas Sdn Bhd, which manages the Shah Alam Highway, Syarikat Mengurus Air Banjir and Terowong Sdn Bhd, which oversees the Stormwater Management and Road Tunnel or SMART system, Sistem Penyuraian Trafik KL Barat Sdn Bhd, Sprint, which is in charge of the Western Kuala Lumpur Traffic Dispersal System, and Lingkaran Trans Kota Sdn Bhd's Damansara Puchong Highway or LDP. In a statement, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the restructuring exercise will see the toll rates not being increased and remain unchanged until the end of the concession, apart from reducing the compensation costs from January 1st this year until the end of the concession period. He said the government is expected to save at least 4.3 billion ringgit in toll subsidies following the restructuring of the 4 highway concessionaires. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri added that this was part of the government's continuous efforts to lessen the burden of the people without incurring financial implication against the government at the same time. He said the savings from the restructuring exercise can be used to carry out development programs of the country's infrastructures and other facilities for the well-being of the people in Malaysia. In the meantime, Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said the government is still negotiating with other companies following the restructuring exercise involving 4 major highway concessionaires. The senior works minister said there will be an announcement involving the other highways when the negotiations are concluded. At a media conference following the announcement on Monday, Datuk Seri Fadilah said that there were a few rounds of negotiations held before a decision was made at the cabinet level.
Yang lain-lain sedang dirondengkan. Nanti akan ada pengumuman melibatkan yang lain-lain kalau dapat dimuktamadkan. Ini hanya 4 highway ini yang telah dimuktamadkan perundingan, yang mana perundingan ini dikendalikan secara bersama di antara saya, Kementerian Kewangan, Menteri Kewangan dan juga Menteri Ekonomi yang terlibat dalam perundingan dan mesyuarat beberapa kali dan beberapa siri yang lalu, sehingga akan diputuskan di peringkat kabinet.
He said that Amanat Lebuh Raya Rakyat Berhad ALR, a private entity, on Monday had proposed to take over 100% of 4 Klang Valley Highway concessionaires. This is part of the government's plan to restructure the concessions with no increase in toll charges without having to pay compensation payments for the restructuring. Datuk Seri Fadilah added that with the proposed restructuring, existing shareholders of the concessionaires, including the Employees Provident Fund, EPF, Kumpulan Wang Amanah Persaraan (KWAP), Permodalan Nasional Berhad (PNB) and Lembaga Tabung Haji will receive a return on their investments sooner than they should. The European Union has accepted Malaysia's COVID-19 vaccine certificates effective Monday. In a report, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the EU had accepted Malaysia's vaccine certificates in equivalence with the EU's digital COVID-19 certificate. The move is expected to give a further boost to business and tourism. According to the report, COVID-19 vaccination and test certificates issued by Malaysia in accordance with the vaccine management system will, for the purpose of facilitating the right of free movement within the Union, be considered as equivalent to those issued in accordance with the EU regulation. Malaysia will thus be connected to the EU Digital COVID Certificate Trust framework. In the report published on Monday, April 4th, it said the decision will enter into force on the day of its publication in the official Journal of the European Union. The EU regulation lays down a framework for the issuance, verification and acceptance of interoperable COVID-19 vaccination, tests and recovery certificates for the purpose of facilitating the holders' exercise of their right to free movement during the pandemic. Malaysia, in its report to the EU, stated its MySejahtera application issued COVID-19 vaccination certificates for shots by Pfizer-BioNTech, AstraZeneca Oxford, Sinovac, CanSino and Sinopharm. It said the MySejahtera application also contains coronavirus test certificates for nucleic acid amplification tests, such as the reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction RT-PCR, but not rapid antigen tests. The report also said Malaysia does not issue certificates of recovery from COVID-19. EU Ambassador to Malaysia, Michalis Rokas, also shared the news on his Twitter account. In announcing it, he said the EU has accepted Malaysia's request for establishing the equivalence between EU's digital COVID certificate and Malaysia's MySejahtera. Rokas described the development as a booster for business and tourism. The Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents, MATA, meanwhile welcomed the EU's acceptance of Malaysia's COVID-19 vaccine certificates. Its president, Datuk Tan Kok Leong, said the development will augur well for tourism industry players and that they should take advantage of the vast potential from the EU market.
It is indeed good news. The Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents congratulates the Malaysian government on the acceptance by EU of Malaysian COVID-19 vaccination certificate. It will definitely boost confidence and improve travel experience, which will augur well for the business and travel segment. We can now embark on marketing and promotions travel shows in the EU without hesitation. With China borders remain closed, it is crucial tourism players focus on the EU market, both inbound and outbound, to support their operations. The acceptance of Malaysian vaccination certificates will definitely improve tourism, which is two-way flow.
And as for the economy, Bank Islam's chief economist, Dr. Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid, said the EU decision will have a positive impact on the nation's gross domestic product, GDP.
Latest news on the acceptance of Malaysia's vaccine certificates by the European Union suggests that the tourism industries are expected to be accelerated. This would mean Malaysians could easily travel to the European continent and vice versa. Prior to the pandemic, the number of tourist arrivals from Europe to Malaysia accounted for about 4% of total, which is about 1.06 million in 2019. Tourism sector is clearly an important industry given its interlinkages with other economic sectors such as retail, hotels, food and beverages, logistics, entertainment, and medical, among others. Essentially, we are seeing a normalization in the economic activities whereby people can travel with less hassle. This would certainly help to improve our country's gross domestic product or GDP in 2022.
Now, a total of 475,678 applications for foreign workers have been received as of April 1st. In a statement, Human Resources Minister Datuk Sri M. Saravanan said the highest applications came from the manufacturing sector with 290,248 applications. Datuk Sri Saravanan in a statement on Monday said 77,000 applications were received from the services sector, 53,854 in the plantation sector, 43,519 in the construction sector, 11,037 in the agriculture sector, as well as 20 in the mining and quarrying sector. He said the processing of the applications have started, and to date a total of 2,605 foreign workers had been approved in the manufacturing and plantation sectors. There were also applications that cannot be processed because the documents are incomplete and the original documents were not attached. Some of the applications also had incorrect information, while some exceeded the quota. Applications by employers for foreign workers for all sectors opened on February 15th this year. The Human Resources Minister also reminded employers to apply online, and applications made manually will not be considered. He added that employers need to ensure that all online applications submitted are complete to prevent the application from being rejected or not being processed. This just in, the Selangor Fire and Rescue Team is in the midst of fighting a fire at Pulau Indah in Klang. According to their statement, just minutes ago they received a distress call at 5:55 p.m. of a fire at West Ports on Monday. No one was injured in the fire. Initial reports say 8 containers were involved in the blaze. 34 firemen in 10 engines were dispatched to the scene. As at 9:30 p.m. the fire spread to 4 other containers. The contents of the containers include spare parts, musical equipment, cotton, baby walkers, lubricant oil, thread and roof mount system. At the moment, the firemen are removing the other containers before it could spread to more containers. Moving on, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has joined the call to advise parents against bringing their children to crowded places despite the country's latest move into the COVID-19 endemic phase. This, the Prime Minister said, was to protect children from being exposed to COVID-19.
Mulai 1 April, walaupun dari segi penjarakan sosial tidak diwajibkan 1 meter lagi, walaupun kawalan kendiri perlu dilakukan untuk mengurangkan jangkitan. Yang pertamanya SOP mask ataupun topeng muka itu wajib, masih diwajibkan. Akta 342 masih berkuat kuasa. Cuma saya kata tadi dari segi penjarakan saja. Walaupun kita perlulah melindungi diri kita. Kalau nampak tempat itu bersesak, mungkin kita tak perlu pergi lagi. Apabila dah keadaan itu dah beransur kurang kesesakannya, baru kita pergi.
The Prime Minister said this to reporters after visiting the Ramadan Bazaar at Precinct 3 Putrajaya on Monday evening. Also in tow was Federal Territories Minister Datuk Sri Shahidan Kasim. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri was asked to comment on the advisory issued by the Health Ministry, urging parents to not bring their children to Ramadan Bazaars. During his hour-long visit at the Ramadan Bazaar, the Prime Minister said he was satisfied with compliance with the COVID-19 prevention standard operating procedures among stall operators and patrons. Now, earlier in his Facebook posting, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri thanked King Salman Abdul Aziz Al Saud of Saudi Arabia for his donation of 46,000 copies of the Alcaraz with a Bahasa Malaysia translation to mosques and Islamic non-governmental organizations nationwide in conjunction with Ramadan this year. The King, who is the guardian of the 2 holy mosques, is also donating 57 tons of dates for distribution to all Malaysians in conjunction with the holy month. The gifts were presented by the Saudi Arabian ambassador to Malaysia, Dr. Mahmud Hussein Said Khatan, at Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri's office in Putrajaya on Monday. The Prime Minister said he considers the gifts, especially the Al-Quran with a Bahasa Malaysia translation, as a symbol of a special friendship between Malaysia and Saudi Arabia, especially with Malaysia's aspiration to uplift the status of Bahasa Malaysia as an ASEAN language. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri also expressed his heartfelt thanks to King Salman Abdul Aziz Al Saud and the government of Saudi Arabia for the gifts. He also expressed hopes that the existing diplomatic ties between the 2 countries will continue to be maintained and strengthened. As the country moves into the endemic phase in this holy month of Ramadan, many are going back to frequenting Ramadan Bazaars. The much welcome relief has enabled the people to observe the month of Ramadan after battling COVID-19 for over 2 years. Although relaxation and flexibility have been given to the people, there are still certain issues pertaining to the Ramadan Bazaars, such as the increase in prices of food, beverages and other items sold, which many people hope the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry can take action on.
Harga barang tu rasa naik sikit kot. Tambah pula dengan lepas MCO kerja pun susah sikit. So harap mungkin daripada sudut kementerian boleh lihat semula kos barang, especially barang-barang yang basic.
Harapan kepada kementerian supaya dapat mengawal lah, supaya pihak penjual tak adalah terpaksa menjual dengan harga mahal dan pembeli pula terpaksa membeli dengan harga yang mahal juga.
Some have argued that the prices at Bazaar Ramadan had increased and that they had no choice. Although the prices of food and groceries has increased, it somehow affect the small businesses and also customers.
Sebab kita golongan yang bekerja, kita pergi yang dekat dengan rumah atau dekat dengan office. Sebab kalau tak, nanti takut tak sempat balik rumah kan, sebab jalan jam semua. Jadi memang saya akan pergi yang hampir dengan saya lah.
Pergi bazar yang dekat. Dan walaupun mahal sikit tak apa sebab kita fikir dekat, kalau jauh pun tak ada choice, kita nak berbuka pun tak best lah.
For some traders, they also complain that the price hike has affected their businesses as the prices for raw materials such as chicken, beef and vegetables have increased.
Barang sayur tu memang harga dia bertahan lah. Harga kita buat macam biasa je lah. Harga still macam biasa kan. Tapi kalau macam kuantiti tu kita terpaksa kurangkan lah. Sebenarnya kami berniaga pun terkesan kan, bila kos naik kita tak boleh nak tinggikan harga sebab orang tak biasa lagi. Jadi saya harap kalau barang tu turun, modal kita turun, maknanya kita pun boleh. Yes, betul macam tu.
Price hike of consumer goods and food in this country have been a major challenge for KPT and HCP this year, and as Malaysians observe the month of Ramadan, many have expressed hope that the prices of food and groceries will show a decrease. Alif Yunus, TV3.
More local updates later in the bulletin, but first, Sri Lanka's cabinet resigns after defy curfew by protesters. The details when we return. Back. The foreign front, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called Russian troops quote-unquote murderers, torturers, rapists, looters on Monday after dozens of bodies were found near Kyiv, triggering global outrage and vows of tough new sanctions on Moscow. Zelensky added that he had created a special body to investigate killings in areas from which Russian troops have withdrawn around the capital as Moscow refocuses its energies on southeastern Ukraine. The scale of the killings is still being pieced together, but Ukrainian prosecutors said so far 410 civilian bodies had been recovered. Earlier, local authorities said they had been forced to dig communal graves to bury the dead accumulating in the streets, including some found with their hands bound behind their backs, in scenes that sent shockwaves through international capitals more than a month into Russia's invasion. Despite Russian denials of responsibility, condemnation was swift, with Western leaders, NATO and the UN all voicing horror at reports of civilian murders in Bucha, northwest of Kyiv and elsewhere. Sri Lanka's entire cabinet, aside from the president and his sibling prime minister, resigned from their posts Sunday as the ruling political clan seeks to resolve a mounting economic crisis and with a social media blackout failing to halt another day of anti-government demonstrations. According to officials, all 26 ministers in the cabinet, aside from President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his elder brother, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, submitted letters of resignation at a late-night meeting. The move clears a way for the president to appoint a new cabinet on Monday, but some of those stepping down may be reappointed. It came with the country under a state of emergency imposed after a crowd attempted to storm the president's home in the capital Colombo and a nationwide curfew in effect until Monday morning. The South Asian nation is facing severe shortages of food, fuel and other essentials, along with record inflation and crippling power cuts in its most painful downturn since independence from Britain in 1948. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam announced she would not seek a second term in office after a controversial title that has seen many of the territory's civil freedoms eroded. As chief executive, Lam oversaw a turbulent period where massive pro-democracy protests led to greater Chinese control in Hong Kong.
換句話說咧，我將喺今年6月30日就完成咗行政長官5年嘅任期。並且咧將會正式結束我長達42年嘅政府服務生涯。我唔尋求連任呢個意願呢，其實早於去年2021年初已經向中央表達咗㗎啦。咁得到中央嘅理解同埋尊重。
Despite that, she also revealed she had informed China about her desire to not seek a second term a year ago, in spite of refusing in recent times to answer questions about her political future. Hong Kong's Chief Secretary John Lee is tipped to be the favoured replacement for Lam. '18-year-old Spanish claims first ever Masters title. Stay with us for the details. Tennis, the Miami Open, Carlos Alcaraz won his first Masters title at just 18 years of age with a straight-set victory over Casper Ruud in the final. Alcaraz was forced to battle hard before taking the first set 7-5. Ruud tried to bounce back in the second set, but Alcaraz showed no mercy, taking a 6-4 win for his 18th victory with just 2 defeats in his 20 matches on the ATP Tour 2022. He became the youngest player to win the ATP event in Miami, taking the record away from Novak Djokovic, and is the third youngest player to win a Masters 1000 event. Still to come, 9 nabbed over brawl and robbery in Tawau. Don't go away. Kelantan police have set up a special task force to curb firecrackers and fireworks smuggling during this fasting month. State Police Chief Datuk Shafiq Muhammed said the task force was set up recently at the district level and would be deployed along areas bordering Thailand.
Jadi sehubungan itu saya telah mengarahkan semua ketua polis daerah meningkatkan pemantauan terutama di sempadan. Dikuatiri ada usaha-usaha untuk menyelundup mercun ke negara kita. Jadi beberapa task force telah pun ditubuhkan untuk menangani perkara ini, dan task force ini juga bukan sahaja di sempadan, akan membuat tinjauan pemerhatian di pasar-pasar Ramadan.
He said aside from conducting regular checks at markets and shops to ensure traders did not sell the banned items, police will also monitor the internet for possible online sales. Datuk Shafiq added that any permit to import firecrackers would not be approved by the police. He said these reporters after witnessing the handing over of duty between outgoing Kelantan Special Branch Chief ACP Zainal Abidin Ahmad Zakaria to new incoming Chief SAC Salim Yo. In Sabah, police detained 9 local men and are looking for another for allegedly fighting at Kabota Square in Tawau late Sunday night after a video clip of the incident was shared on social media. Tawau District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Jasmine Hussein said 2 people were injured in the fight and the suspects had been remanded for between 2 and 4 days to facilitate investigation for fighting and theft. He said prior to the incident on Sunday, the suspect was inside the premises at Kabota Square and apparently became angry when someone kept staring at him. The confrontation led to a brawl involving several others outside the premises. The brawl was broken up by passers-by and the complainant got away. The complainant then lodged a report at 12:58 a.m. on Sunday. He added that two of those injured in the fight had sought outpatient treatment at Tawau Hospital. And that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at as Beijing residents tend their ancestors' graves during the annual Qingming Festival, also known as Tomb Sweeping Day. With that, I'm Muhammed, Ahmad Hamdan. Thank you for tuning in. And to our Muslim viewers, Selamat Bersahur.